Hello there. In this set of videos, we're going to be looking at how you can use motion paths in Autodesk Maya to create some really interesting animations. So what we're going to look at is how you can use something as simple as a motion path and then put that together with an animation technique which is useful called parenting to get some quite good looking results without having to put a lot of work in. So we're aiming towards creating something that looks like this. So we'll be using a Spitfire model, we'll create a little bit of terrain in the background and we'll get that flying around in the sort of way that you see here. Okay, if that sounds like something you want to be doing, get yourself into the next video. That'll tell you where you need to go to download the resources we're going to use, and it'll get your project set up for the next few steps. Okay, see you there. It'll have a little think, and then you can see we've got a simple model of a Spitfire ready to animate with. What you'll notice is that it comes in two pieces. We've got the main body of the plane and separate propellers, so it's already set up for kind of basic animation. Okay, so if you've made it to the end of this video, I'm going to assume that you've managed to get the plane open in Maya with your textures applied, and that means that you're ready to set this up for animation in the next video. I will see you there. So in this video, what we need to do is get this propeller here spinning, which is nice and straightforward. We're going to use a couple of keyframes to do that. So the first keyframe we need to set is on frame 1, and it's the state that it's currently in. So make sure that your playhead is on frame 1. You're then going to press S on your keyboard, which puts this red line down here and sets all these attributes here in red, so you know that keyframe's set. If for any reason S on your keyboard is not working, you can just change to your animation menu set, go to animate and choose set key, and that'll do the same thing. Okay, so that's good. What we need to do next is move on to frame 10, ping, and then we're going to rotate on the Z-axis. You can see we're going through the Z-axis here. So on the Z-axis we're going to rotate 360 degrees, so that's one complete rotation. Okay, so press enter on that, and then you need to press S or go to animate set key straight away to make sure that's working. So there you go, we've now got one complete rotation of the propeller, but we need that to keep going. So in order to do that, we're going to use the graph editor. So making sure you've got your propeller selected, you're going to go to animate, nope, not animate, window, and then you're going to go to animation editors and choose graph editor. And the first thing you'll probably want to do, if it doesn't show up neatly like mine, so let's say that it's really zoomed in or really zoomed out, if you just press A on your keyboard, it'll frame up your curve so that it's about the right size. And as you can see, it's got a bend at the beginning and a bend at the end, and we want to do away with those because it means it'll speed up and slow down, which is of no use to us. So I'm just going to select the whole thing, and then I'm going to change my tangents to linear tangents, and that'll be a nice straight line. Okay, so now it's going for a constant speed between frame 1 and 10, but we need to get it to keep spinning beyond frame 10. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to curves, I'm going to choose post infinity, and I'm going to let it cycle, which means it'll just keep spinning over and over and over. So if I just minimize that now and I hit play, you can see that that just keeps spinning, which is ace. And it should also mean that if I choose to move the plane, I'll have to stop it to show you, but if I move the plane as well, the propeller's going to go with it and it'll keep spinning. So that is a very good start to what we're going to produce. So what we're going to do in the next video is worry about how we get this plane to actually fly around. So I will. Okay, welcome back. So in the last video we created our motion path, so I've zoomed in a little bit, you can see the remnants of my motion path here, and we've got our aeroplane with the propeller spinning, and it's all parented up. So we now need to get the plane onto the curve and following it around. What you do need to know before we do this is that Maya needs to know how long you want the animation to take. So how long do I want it to take for my plane to get from the beginning of this curve to the end? And that's where your time slider comes in, this little chap down here, so 1 to 720. And I'm going to leave it like that, and that's how long the animation will take. But if I wanted it to take 100 frames, I would just drop that down to about 100 frames. and then that's how long the animation would take. So it would happen between 1 and 98 in this case. So this is where you tell it, first of all, how long you want your animation to be. And in this case, I want all 720 frames, so I need to make sure that's how I'm set up. Lovely. Okay, so the next step is to select your plane. We're then going to shift select the curve so that I've got them both selected. And now, making sure that you are in your animations menu set, you're going to go to animate. You're going to go all the way down to motion paths, and then you're going to choose attach to motion path. And you'll notice your plane disappears. Fantastic. And if we zoom out and zoom back in over here, you'll see that your plane has done what we wanted it to do, and it's attached to the motion path. And if we start scrubbing through, you'll see that it's now following the motion path. Dead easy. But I'm sure you've got eyes and you've realized there's a bit of a problem with this. The plane's flying sideways. No! That is to do with an error with the way that I modeled this plane in the first place. I didn't make front face the same way, but I've chosen to leave it facing the wrong direction so that I can show you how to put it right should it ever come up. So once you've got it following the curve, as we have, you need to just click on your aeroplane and then go into the attribute editor, and you'll now see that you've got a motion path 1 tab that you can now use to edit some of these settings. And assuming that you've gone a little bit crazy like I have, you just need to change your front axis to Z. And you can now see that although it's backwards, it is at least sort of aligned. You can see it'll fly backwards down the line. Brilliant. So the only other thing I now need to do is put a tick in the box of inverse up. And you'll now see that that is flying wonderfully. Okay, so it would have just been easy if I'd modelled front in the right direction in the first place, but we wouldn't have learned anything from that now, would we? So that there is attaching an aeroplane or any object to a motion path. So if I now hit play, you'll be able to see this aeroplane flies all around the curve, and it's going to take the full 720 frames as we discussed to do so. Whee! And off it goes, which is lovely. That's exactly what we wanted. In the next video, we'll have a look at how we make it, well, how we get it to avoid sort of speeding up and slow it down. As you can see, it slows down towards the end, so we'll sort that out, and we'll also get it to lean into the corners in the next video as well. So I will see you back. So as we said at the end of the last video, what we need to do now is stop the plane from having these sort of splined tangents so that it speeds up at the beginning and slows down at the end. We're going to get it going at a constant speed like we did with the propeller. So in order to do that, Window, Animation Editors, Graph Editor, and I'm doing that with my plane selected. And then what I'm going to do is press A, and there's the curve that represents the plane flying around. You can see that it goes from 1 to 720, so I know that's the right one. So I'm just going to select the whole thing and click on Linear Tangent. Hooray! That was nice and easy. And close that now. So if you watch now, the plane will just ping into action at a constant speed, which is what I wanted to happen. What we're going to do next is get the plane to bank around corners, which is kind of how planes fly. But in order to do this, what we're looking for is kind of the tightest part of the curve you've drawn. And that's because that's going to be the most the plane will bank so that we don't accidentally overdo it. So in my case, the kind of tightest part of my curve is about here. About there, I think. So what I've done is I've just put it on the tightest part of the curve, and now I'm going to, in my attribute editor, under the motion path 1 tab, I'm going to put a tick in the box that says bank. And when I tick the box, you'll see it lean a little bit. There you go. Not much, but it does lean. And it's from there that you then decide how much you want to do it. And you just keep upping this number until you're happy. So I'll try 10 first of all. Not bad. Let's try 25. Yeah, I think we can go a little bit further than that. Let's try 35. If I'm even going to go higher than that, let's do 45. I'm feeling like a rebel today. Oh, that's good. Okay. That's all there is to it. So now, around every corner, the plane's going to bank. So I'll zoom out a little bit. Maybe that's too far. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. And I'll just rewind it a touch. and play, and you'll see that as the plane goes around the corner, it leans into it. There we go. So that's it for this video. I want you to select whichever sort of number for banking you're happy with that you think looks cool. And that's the bulk of the animation done, really. In the next video, we'll have a look at creating a bit of an... So in this video, we're going to try and build a little bit of terrain. We're actually going to do it in the simplest way possible. We're going to use a height map and we're going to use a diffuse map. It'll take us seconds to build something that looks really cool. And that's what those images are. If you've had a look in the source images folder, there are a couple of images in there that we're going to use for this. And it really could not be much easier. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back into my top view. I'm going to make sure I'm on my polygon shelf. I'm going to choose plane. And I'm just going to drag a plane that sort of encompasses quite easily my curve like that. And then into my channel box, I'm just going to try and square it off because the images I'm using are squared. So I can see that I've got 3220 by 2340. So I'll change that to a 3200. And I'll change this one to 3200 as well. Lovely. Okay. Then what I need to do is add some subdivisions to this, and that's going to give me the vertices I need to manipulate the shape. So I'm going to go for 100 by 100 in this case, which will be plenty. Okay, and then the final thing I need to do is just move it down a little bit, like so, because I'm going to raise this up using a height map in a minute, and I don't really want the plane to be crashing into any mountains. Okay, so that's that done. The plane is ready. The only other thing I could do if I was doing things properly is I'd rename this to, I want to call it terrain, and enter. Okay, the tool we need then to make this work is the sculpt geometry tool. Double click on that to bring up the options. Here they are. And then we need to make sure this is set up. So I want the sculpt parameters. In fact, the best thing you could do first of all is just reset the tool to make sure it's at defaults. And then the sculpt parameters, I'm going to go for pull. My max displacement, I want about 10% of what the width and height is. So I know that my width and height are 3200, so 10% of that would be 320. Okay, so that means it's going to raise up about 10 squares high, and then I can refine it after that. Okay, next thing I want to do is I'm going to go to Attribute Maps. I'm going to go to Import and click on the Import button. And this will take me, if I've got my project set right, into the Source Images folder, and there you'll see an image called Height Map, which is this black and white image. The white represents the bits that we want to raise up, the black represents the bits we want to leave alone. So if I now click on Open, you can see that I've created a nice little bit of mountainous terrain there. Okay, once you've got that, you might want to refine it a little bit. So I actually do. My mountains aren't quite steep enough for my liking. So I shall switch to my scale tool. I'm going to scale it up a touch. About there. And I'm just going to make sure that my plane's not flying into it. So I need to move it down a little bit. Get the curve out of there. That should be nice. And that is my terrain nice and built. The only other thing I need to do to this bad boy is get the diffuse map on there, get a texture on it. So I'm going to go straight into my Hypershade. When the computer catches up with me, I'm just going to hide this bit because I don't need it. And I'm going to create myself a new Lambert. I'm going to call it Terrain M. And then in my attribute editor, I need to attach an image to it. So click on the checker box under color, click on file, click on the folder under image name, and I'm going to choose texture, I do believe. There you go. And this is an image that matches the height map that we've just used. So click on open. You will then, from your materials section up here, want to drag that onto your terrain using the middle mouse button. Pop. And then it may or may not appear. If it doesn't appear, if it looks like this, it's probably because you've only got shaded display on. So press number 6 on your keyboard and you'll see some lovely looking mountains. Okay, so I'm now going to go back into my perspective view. Oh yeah, that's lovely. And then what I shall do next is worry about